Embodied Performance Podcast, episode 38. I'm Nick Markey, Beach Barbell, Physical Therapy, and Strength Training in Wilmington, North Carolina. Building out our gym over the next couple weeks, holding a launch, promo, and charity drive until November 1st. If you are interested, please check out beachbarbell.com. So today is Workout Wednesday, where we talk about different ideas relating to workouts. Last week, we talked about frequency and splits. Today, I'm going to talk about rep ranges. Usually the question is, how many should I do? And it kind of depends on, obviously, the goals of the individual, but we'll leave aside somebody who's competing in some sort of weightlifting sport like powerlifting or Olympic weightlifting. And we'll just go to probably the broad majority of people. So most people are probably looking to maybe get a little bit more definition. You know, they say, I want to be toned. Better word to use would be definition, so that you can kind of see some muscle. Most women say they don't want to be bulky, but they want to be toned. Sure, most people also want to feel strong and healthy and full of energy. And then also perhaps reduce their risk of injury and be able to stay engaged in whatever activities they like to do for longer in their life. So those are three great goals. And I would say majority of people, that's kind of where they line up. They want to look a little better, feel a little better, and maybe be able to perform and handle life a little better. So when talking about rep ranges, we were talking about how many do you do in like one sitting. So you have a set. A set is a grouping of a bunch of repetitions or reps. So a rep would be moving whatever it is you're doing once. So if I'm doing a bicep curl, I'm lifting the weight up and then lowering it back down. That would be one rep. And then say that I did 10 in a row and then took a break. That would be one set of 10 reps. So in terms of how many you should do in one sitting, there's a lot of different information on this, but typically you want to push it till you maybe have just a few left. So if we're going by intensity level or exertion challenging level, you'd be at like maybe an 8 out of 10, meaning that you could probably get 2 more, but then no more. Whereas a 10 out of 10 would be, I tried, but I can't lift it up anymore. So you have none left. 9 would be maybe you have 1 left. So when we're trying to kind of address maybe some getting more definition, which would be what's called hypertrophy, that would be muscle growth. It'd be probably a combination of muscle growth and diet changes. So the diet changes to help you gradually maybe lose a little bit of weight, and then the muscle growth to gradually recomp your body or build the muscles so that you can see them better. So what you'd be looking at is probably for most people, repetition range of maybe like 5 to 15 or 20. So that's a pretty wide range. So, you know, the weight you do at 5 reps where maybe you only have 1 or 2 left is quite a bit more than what you would do at 20 where you only have 1 or 2 left. Now, the interesting thing is that if you get to that point with both different weights, so like, you know, with repetitions of 20, you'd be doing a lot lighter weight compared to if you're doing repetitions of 5. But near the end, near that, literally the final or maybe 1 or 2 reps left level, like that exertion or challenging level 8 we're talking about, you'd actually it almost looks the same because your body is nearing its end in terms of what it can handle in that given set. So the research suggests that, any range in there, I think even up to like 30 reps, you can develop pretty good muscle growth if you are going to that point. If you pick a weight that requires you to go to 30 to get to that, almost failure, where you're maybe 1 or 2 left in the tank and you only do 10 reps, you're probably not going to get the benefit you need. It needs to be challenging. But the cool part is that you can kind of pick maybe to focus on the rep ranges that you like. So if you maybe like lighter weight and going towards 15, 20, 25, 30 reps, and you're challenging yourself at those rep ranges, then that's okay. You will get muscle growth if, give it enough time and practice. And if you're actually going to that, 1 or 2 left, versus if you like heavier weights and you're, down towards the 4s and 5s and 6s and 8s and whatever, you will also get muscle growth. It's just, you have to get to that point of near failure, 1 or 2. Now, do you have to go to failure? I mean, going to failure, if say that you had, a time crunch, and like last week you were maybe doing full body, and, so you're going to do maybe an upper body, a lower body, and, whatever exercise, if you're going to only just do 1 set, you might take that to failure because you're not going to do any more. And sometimes on your last set of that particular area, you can take to failure. You just probably don't want to do that in the very beginning of the workout because that can be pretty fatiguing, and then it could lower your ability to work harder later in the exercise. So definitely wouldn't go to failure in the beginning of your session, but maybe near the end. Or if, like I said, you're in a time crunch, you have 10, 15 minutes and you want to, bang out an exercise in each body part, then that probably would be fine. But in normal circumstances, you probably don't need or necessarily need to go to failure, or should. Going to that, 1 or 2 left in the tank is generally going to serve you better, because then you're going to do another set, after, maybe a minute or 2 of rest, and then you do another set of that exercise and, take it to that same level of intensity. So, there's different ways you can kind of scheme that. You can say, well, I'm going to go towards, 8 reps or so. And so I'll grab a weight, maybe let's say it's your first time doing this particular lift. So you don't necessarily know what kind of weight you can handle. So you just start light, just kind of feel it out, get a warm up set or 2 in, maybe you do, half of what you think you can handle, and then, it feels pretty easy. So you go up a little bit more and that feels easy. So then you go up a little bit more and then that feels like you're doing something. Maybe you take it to 8 and then you go, well, I feel like I have, maybe a couple more left in me. If you're feeling like you're nearing failure at that point, then you're probably not going to change the weight. You might even maybe drop it an inch, if your goal is just to stick with the 8s. But you could always stick with the weight, and if you get, only 7 on the next one, that's okay too. But again, we're not necessarily trying to go to failure on this. So I hope that doesn't sound too confusing. It's very broad and vague. Ultimately, you want to do enough with whatever weight you chose that you feel like you did something. You feel like you maybe got 1 or 2 left, and you actually felt like you did something. And over that week, you want to try different rep ranges. So you want to go up to the higher rep ranges, lighter weights, and you want to go down to the heavier weights and lower rep ranges, and in the middle as well. So it could be a good idea because you're going to challenge your body a little differently in those different sets. And again, you can maybe focus primarily on the rep range that you prefer, that you like to do, and then, occasionally tap into those other rep ranges. So I hope that helps answer the question of how many should I do. Usually when I'm working with somebody for the first time, when they're trying an exercise, I just have them try to do it as many times as they can do it until they get to, failure, or that, maybe their technique is really getting sloppy. So then you're saying, okay, well, we're calling that failure now. That way they can feel, what that point is. And then from there, later on, we can judge, how many to do later on. So long story short, for rep ranges, for just your average person, you're probably looking in the range of maybe 5 to 20 for practical purposes. Sometimes I'll give people a more narrow range of like 8 to 12 because that's kind of a middle moderate weight, and is a little easier to fathom sometimes. And so you can do something like, well, if you're going the 8 to 12, you can say, well, once I can do the weight, maybe 3 sets of 12. So that's, I do 12, take a break, 12, take a break, 12. Then maybe that's when I move up in weight. And you could do the same thing with the 20 rep range top end. You can say, well, when I can do the weight, 23 sets of 20, which is a lot, that's 60 total reps. Then you can up the weight again too. But I tend to keep it a little lower, maybe 15 or 12 at the most, personally. But again, there is, you can reach positive gains from going to those higher rep ranges if that's what you like to do. So I hope that was helpful in helping you understand a little bit more working out. I think next week I will go into maybe that exertion, talk about that a little bit. Because that could be a helpful way to understand how you're feeling and what you're doing, and how to kind of modify with a little bit more maybe simplicity when you're not feeling so hot. Again, I'm Nick Markey, Beach Barbell, Physical Therapy and Strength Training in Wilmington, North Carolina, building out our gym, launch promo and charity drive. If you join before November 1st, please check out beachbarbell.com for details. Thank you. Bye.